All right. For all y'all who do not know, I might have a little lag up in here. The computer been kind of going a little slow a little bit. You know what I mean? But this is about the Melly trial. The judge ordered them to go back in for a minute. Give me 1 second. It should be coming back on. The judge is just sitting down. I got the
Thank you, Legislator. Looks like the jury stepped out. Councilor Maine, along with the defendant. We're in recess.
All right, now they pretty much got the internet acting up a little bit. Appreciate everybody who have been sticking in there. Wow, this internet been going in and out. Um, so what they did is they brought a note um, to the judge, and they asked the question like, "What if there's going to be a mistrial?" And so both parties agreed that it's probably going to be a mistrial. I'm gonna see if I could pull that video up. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can pull it up. All right, hold on. Just give me 1 second. Thank y'all for all y'all who've been kind of holding in there. But this deep, because if that's the case, at least they definitely gonna have to call it a mistrial. They don't want to seem like they, and then they start arguing back and forth about, them forcing them to say whatever. So let's see what happens. So we still waiting right now. For all y'all who do not know, we still waiting. And while we still waiting, I'm gonna play y'all some of the audio of sorry about that. That's just loud anyway, no matter what. I need to turn that down. Hold on for 1 second.
That's your interpretation. My interpretation, based upon the evidence, is where's the weed, the marijuana? That's the problem. There.
All right, let me pause it for y'all who just don't know. All right, first of all, this is Melly's lawyer, and he's trying to show them how the prosecution and everybody, the investigators, kept coming after Melly because they was reading some texts. that was in Melly's song. And so when they head to Texas, they seen the word FYE. And so somebody asked Melly what a fire. So the prosecutors interpreted it as saying, he was talking about that fire. All right, I'm gonna pull it a little bit back. Here's the idea.
Based upon the evidence is, where's the weed, the marijuana? That's the problem there, folks. They're interpreting it as opposed to calling these various people to tell you what they need. They mentioned Frederick Gibbons, Frito Bang, Mariah Hamlin, P.C. Patrick Deloach, Dontavius Withers. They opened the door. See?
All right, did you hear what Melly's lawyer said? He said they opened the door. They were speaking something, but they objected to it. And so they called out objections. So now the judge got to deal with it. And so he looks over at the judge and he says, they opened the door for it. That's the reason why I brought it up.
P.C. Patrick Deloach, Dontavius Withers.
These all are.
They opened the door. See? We don't have a burden. As the court told you in jury selection, the burden of proof is on the state. And the court told you during jury selection that this is a first-degree murder case, wherein the penalties are either life without the possibility of parole or death. You folks are going to determine this young man's fate. And they come in here and give you alternatives. They come in here and give you your interpretation.
Hold on for 1 second. All right. I had to make sure that was right.
And we don't have to do a blind thing. And that principle was so important that His Honor read you that instruction at the beginning, going through the process. And he just read it to you before the state capital. He gave their opening and closing statement. He told you that this young man has pled not guilty. That means you have to presume him innocent. That means that presumption stays with him until and if the state of Florida can prove their case beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. The judge goes on to tell you, and it's in your packet of jury instructions, that the defendant, Melly, is not required to present any evidence or prove anything. So it's not nice that they're interpreting these things, or the principle. Make up your mind. Tell these folks. What it is. Now, how do you go about doing this? Well, the judge gave you an instruction on that. You're to look at the evidence that's been presented. Remember, you don't have to do it. Oh, now,
Hey, it's Dana.
I don't know. We apologize. I would ask I or any of the other individuals have done anything to irritate you. Don't take it out on this young man. Still hold the burden of proof to this table. Now, why do they have the burden of proof? Because Frederick Gibbons, Frito Bank, Mariah Hamlin, P. Patrick Deloach, Dontavius Withers. They opened the door. We don't have a burden. As the court told you in jury selection, the burden of proof is on the state. I told you during jury selection that this is a first-degree murder case, wherein the penalties are either life without the possibility of parole or death. You folks are going to determine this young man's fate. And they come in here and give you alternatives. They come in here and give you their interpretation. When we don't have to and that I just read it to you before the state got he gave their opening and closing statement.
Have to do with tools for a brighter financial future.
So basically, yeah, the lawyer's definitely snapping. He's definitely snapping. Let's get back into it. Hold on.
It's pled not guilty. That means you have to presume an innocence. That means that that presumption stays with you until and if the state of Florida can prove their case beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. The judge goes on to tell you, and it's in your packet of jury instructions, that the defendant, Jamel, is not required to present any evidence or prove anything. So it's nice that they're interpreting these things, but the bottom line is they don't even know. Because they've given you just two alternatives. Either he's the shooter or the principal. Make up your mind. Tell these folks what it is.
Yeah, the lawyer's snapping.
Now, how do you go about doing this? Well, the judge gave you an instruction on that. You're to look at the evidence presented to you. Remember, don't have to do it.
John Murphy.
All we have to do is show up and behave. Now, I don't know if I behaved totally correct during the course of this trial. So on behalf of us, let me apologize if I have or we have offended anyone. And I would ask you, I would plead with you, if I or any of the other individuals have done anything to irritate you, don't take it out on this young man. Still hold the burden of proof to this table. Now, why do they have the burden of proof? Because they are the state, they are the government. As we learned in this case, they have the police department of Miramar, they have the Broward Sheriff's Office, they have the DNA labs, they have experts, the FBI, they have everything at their disposal. And that's why our system of justice is different than anyone else in the world. We recognized a long time ago that when the government accuses somebody of a crime, they have the money, the resources, and the person power to attempt to prove to you all that a person has committed a crime beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. Now, how do you go about doing it? And before I get into that, first of all, let me also thank you, because we have interrupted your lives for it seems like months. And we have put a horrible burden on your personal lives, your family life, and what have you. And all of us applaud your and thank you for your service. You folks have gone way beyond the call of duty. And I think we all recognize that. But how do we go about determining, and I shouldn't say how do you folks go about determining if the state of Florida has proved their case beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt? Well, the judge just gave you that instruction. It is to the evidence introduced in this trial and to it alone that you are to look for that proof. Remember, we just got to show up. And how does a reasonable doubt occur? Well, the judge told you. It can come from the evidence itself, a conflict in the evidence, or a lack of evidence. You don't need all three of these areas. But I suggest to you folks that we have a reasonable doubt from the evidence that has been presented, that there is a conflict in the evidence, and there's a lack. This is an unusual case, kind of like the medical examiners. The two medical examiners said they tell what shot occurred first, second, and third. And the chief medical examiner came in there, Dr. McDougall, I think, and told you it's only happened to her in her entire career, I think 2 or 3 times, that she could tell you which shot occurred first in this case. So, knowing that, let's look at what the state presented. But before we do that, we can agree upon a couple of things that are not in dispute. They said that Melly is a talented music artist.
All right, we gotta definitely think that he's getting off because they went back into deliberations one more time. They said that they was not coming to a good agreement, and that went down. He sent them back in there to deliberate again. They wanted to listen to another lady testify. Came out and testified. They start back deliberating. And so they sent a note to the judge. And they told him they may end up saying they can't come to a conclusion. And so this is some more audio from the lawyer.
The evidence. He was making more money than probably everybody in this courtroom, including us. Number two. Oh, I'm sorry. I found no back. Usually, judges stop me reading. Number two is that Cortland Henry changed his clothes before he went to the hospital. That's what they said just 10 minutes ago. Number three, that there is absolutely no eyewitness that will implicate this young man to this crime, these crimes. Number four, they talk about premeditation. I suggest to you there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever to show premeditation. And the last one that we absolutely agree with, and they admit it, the Miramar Police Department lacks the training. Those aren't my words. That was Miss Bradley just an hour ago saying. Not only did Miss Bradley say that, but Sergeant Williams, they lack the training, their reports. Now, the state produced over 100 exhibits, sitting right here on the floor. Ms. Bradley made reference to some of them, all here. And I put them on this side of the podium because I suggest to you that this is a smoke screen. I suggest to you that this is open for anybody to interpret any way they want. When I say something sarcastic, you don't know if I'm serious or not. I can tell my colleague, I hate your guts, and it could be joking, and I am joking. And that's what this case is, and that's all this evidence is, open for interpretation. That's not evidence, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Now I put on this side of the table, really the evidence that means something. There's one other exhibit, but it's on a little USB internet thing. And that is the video leaving the studio, showing the two cars and the 8 individuals that left. Sitting on this side of the table is a broken cell phone that Moretti could not tell you whose it was, and the 9807 phone that Melly uses, as other people do too. These are the two key pieces of evidence. These are what I suggest you focus in on, because you can take any one of these items, any one of these text messages, any one of these pinging on maps, and you still don't know what was said, what was meant, and more importantly, who said it. I leave my phone, and I'm sure you all, in the house, and my wife picks it up and sends a message. And it looks like it's coming from me. And sometimes she sends messages that I'm kind of shocked about. But it's, you don't know. So let's put the 100 plus exhibits to the side for a moment. The state called 26 witnesses. I think I counted. And I suggest to you that you should look at 11 witnesses very carefully. And why do I say that? Because when you look at these 11 witnesses, you will find out that there's a conflict in the testimony, that there's a lack of testimony, and the third way is from the testimony itself. The first one that I would like to talk about.
Getting an LLC for your business doesn't have to look like this. Just Google LLC.
All right, so we're gonna get back into it. The lawyer is going off. The lawyer is going off. Let me get back into it. Let me turn it back on.
Before I talk about the first witness, I want you to remember one thing. On October 26th, that day of the shooting, we learned immediately that that Jeep was taken to a secure area. And it was searched for over 15 hours by 2 crime scene technicians. And you heard how they pulled out the evidence. Foam, some projectiles, I think a can, everything, and photographed the vehicle. Now, why is that important? Because the vehicle was searched, you know that? Okay. That vehicle was searched again months later. But it didn't stop there. Because about 3 years later, miraculously, even though it was searched for hours by crime scene technicians, Sergeant Williams comes into the scene at the request of the state of Florida, this particular prosecutor right here. And miraculously, he finds additional evidence, 2 projectiles and a blood stain that obviously everyone else missed. That should tell you something about the quality of this investigation. That should give you a clue as to what's going on in this case. What happened was, once they got the surveillance tape of the individuals leaving the studio, they knew that Cortland Henry, Williams, Thomas, and this young man got into the Jeep. It's shown on the video. In the Mitsubishi were Adrian Davis, Patrick Deloach, Trevon Glass, and I'm missing one other. Withers, Dontavius Withers. And we know that on October 26th, when Moretti saw surveillance, Cortland Henry identified all of them. And in fact, told them that he lives at this young man's house. I made a mistake. Jacoby Mills was in charge. It was Jacoby Mills, Adrian Davis, Trevon Glass, and Dontavius Withers. Okay? I can't keep the names straight. I'm lucky if I can remember my own. We know that Moretti identified all 8 people that left the studio on October 26th. We also know that Moretti knew where this young man lived, along with all the other 7 people that left the studio. We all know that, according to the state, Cortland Henry lied to the police. And we also know, as the investigation progressed, that Cortland Henry had blood matching the victim on his clothes. And he also had GSR, or gunshot residue, on his clothes. If that were true, and you saw the pictures of the Jeep, all bloody, blood all over the place, and we learned that you could spray and determine if there was blood right here on the carpet, even though you don't see it, why in the heck don't you get a search warrant for the house? Why in the heck don't tell us we didn't know where it lived? Don't tell us it was months later, because they go into the car 4 years later and do this. So why don't you do it? Because Detective Ronan in the Miramar Police Department, as everyone has said, lacks the experience and the training. We don't have to do a darn thing. We don't have to do a thing. But let's go into the 11 witnesses now. The first one, and they mentioned George Bellow, the manager, the head guy of the gun and tool mark unit of the entire Broward Sheriff's Office. And he tells you, after we get a great education of guns and projectiles and tasting, we have to bring up the fact that can you tell or determine the distance between the shooter and the victim? Can you tell us that with all your experience? And what does it say? I can't do it unless I have the weapon, unless I have the ammunition, because ammunition, the weight of ammunition could change the distance. And you have to have the weapon in order to do that. He cannot even tell us if it was one gun, two guns, or more. He's honest. He tells you that without the weapon used, I cannot place the shooter to the victim, or victims in this case. Now, why is that important? Because a reasonable doubt can arise from a conflict in the testimony.
Chicken is crispy. Taste.
If you believe George Bell, and I suggest you should, then he totally contradicts all the testimony of Sergeant Williams, who comes in here 4 or 5 years later and says, I can tell you where shooter one was, and I can tell you who the shooter is. You talk about a conflict in the testimony? It's one or the other. It can't be both. And he tells you, in addition to that the environment has to be considered. Now, Williams tells you he goes out to the scene some 4 or 5 years later and has no idea, nor did he even check the terrain, the environment on that particular morning out. So you gotta believe one or the other. You can't believe both of them because they are in direct conflict with each other. But let's go further. The next witness that you should consider is FBI agent Brendan Collins. He is an expert in tracking photos. He is not only an expert in Broward County, but he's an expert, and his team have been specially trained the Mac phones, not only in this country, but anywhere in the world if it's called upon. They brought him in. Now what does he tell you? This expert. I cannot determine precisely the location of a phone. I cannot say 100% the phone is in, and you saw the band, it looks like a banana. He says, I think it's somewhere within this area, but I can't be 100% sure. He's candid. And he further tells you that the call detail records are limited. And I can't tell you who had the phone at any particular time. And most importantly, he tells you in making the mapping of the phones, the FBI, the special agents, do not use two items that are on the bill. That is the environment section, and he does not map out based upon the longitude and latitude. He goes to the cell towers and where they're bouncing off. And it could vary depending upon the strongest signal or how busy that network is. He contradicts Williams, the one who comes up and tells you the phone is at this location here, this location here, this location here, at these particular times. It's one or the other, folks. I suggest to you there's another conflict in the testimony. The next witness I think you need to pay particular attention to and really get a flavor of what this case is all about is Felicia Holmes. Felicia Holmes tells you that the Miramar detectives, Moretti and his group, threatened her, bullied her daughter, told potential witnesses they were going to prison, told witnesses that they may never see their children again, told a witness that he was going to be deported even though he's been in this country since 5 years old. He was going to be deported to Haiti where they won't feed you. The place is, with all due respect, and excuse my language, but it was his language that he used, shit. This is the great detective. This is why this kid's sitting here. They have intimidated and threatened everybody. So I ask you, I beg you, to consider Felicia Holmes because that tells you what's going on. When Moretti got that surveillance tape and realized this young man, this little kid, excuse me for calling him a kid, he was 19 at the time, was a rap star, making more money than he'll ever see in his entire career at 19.
Recordings just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce that local record.
He got television. And he wanted to nail this kid. And what better way to move up the ranks, get some publicity, is to arrest the star. If they arrest Howard or myself, they go, who the hell is Allison? Who the hell is Howard? That's the bottom line. So he just focused in, and everything was directed to get this kid. That's why he ignored everything. And that's why he intimidated and threatened anybody that said something different. So I ask you to pay attention to Felicia Holmes because you do get an idea of what this investigation is. The fourth witness was a Kurt Rhodes, the DNA expert. Now, why is he important? Because while we were picking a jury in April and we were off in May, this prosecutor asked him to go back to the car and check some DNA. Now, why would you do that? The case, according to Moretti, is closed as soon as this young man is arrested. Why do you go back 5 years and ask an expert, a DNA expert, to do some more testing? This kid walked into the Broward, voluntarily surrendered. And 5 years later, they had the audacity to say, let's do a little more testing. Why? Because now we're in trial. And they realize there's problems. Why else would you do it? 3 years after this young man surrenders, they bring in Danny Paul. I call him the masked man. He came in there for a few hours, if you recall, got on this witness stand and wore a ski mask over his entire face where you could only see his eyes. They came in here. He got involved in 2022 at the request again of the state, the prosecutor. What was the purpose of that? The great gang expert? They wanted to link him to some guy. You know, in the rap culture, whether you want to accept it or not, gangs are attracted to it. If you want to be successful in rap music, you are going to pick up some of the nuances of various gangs. Snoop Dogg, to this day, it was.
No problem. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this argument, all right, proceed, counsel. Objection to the rule.
Snoop Dogg, to this day, does hand signs of a gang. And he does that because he realizes it promotes his music. That's the bottom line. And because he wants to promote his music, make money, he's all of a sudden this big gang guy. And they wait till 2022 to bring him in. Thought the case was closed, according to Moretti. And they show you some text messages from, I think it was Gino Burke and Wando, who fought with Anthony Williams previously. Now, certainly, if the investigation is being fair and you want to find what's involved in this case, you would relay that information to the lead detective or suspects. And what do we find out? Moretti has no idea who Gino is, no idea who Kirk is, and doesn't know about Wando. This is a great investigation. But he also refers to some text messages where those individuals that are in fact associated with the gang text him and he's not responding. And to the point of not responding, they say they're gonna put you on the plate. Now, that's not for dinner. That's not for breakfast. We learned what that means. If you don't start responding to us, we're gonna have you killed. What the heck's going on? Why wouldn't you investigate this? They want you to believe that there's no evidence of that. How do they know there's no evidence if they don't investigate? They don't search. They don't look. You got all these phones. Get Gino and her. You have their text messages. Go get their phones, track them, and see. We don't have to do a thing, folks. The presumption of innocence stays with us during the entire time until and if they can prove beyond every reasonable doubt that this young man did anything wrong. Moretti didn't want to look at that. Why? Because God forbid they find some evidence. His arrest of a star is down the tubes. That's the bottom line. I want you to pay particular attention to Dr. Verdugo and Dr. Simons. Because those two doctors, one being the chief medical examiner of Broward County, the other one, the associate medical examiner, I think now employed in West Palm Beach, say to you that the first shot to Williams and Thomas were fatal. Deadly. Why is that important? Because according to Sergeant Williams, Thomas's injury to his hand came first. It was a defensive wound. We know that couldn't happen based upon the medical testimony. So you either have to disregard the medical examiner and accept what Williams' testimony is, or I suggest now that you have four experts contradicting Williams' testimony. And that is Bellow, Special Agent FBI Agent Collins, and two medical examiners conflict with Williams' testimony, that you should take Williams' testimony and ignore it, toss it out. You can't have it both ways. It just doesn't work. And then we get to really their star witness, two star witnesses. Sergeant Williams. I think I've talked a bit about him. And I think the most amazing part of his testimony is that he does not get involved in this case until 3 years after the incident. Again, at the request of the state. Again, because they realize that they have